Hi, everybody. Good morning. So I heard that Sandra and Lucero had a great event in Colombia.
Yes, it was awesome.
I saw lots of pictures. It looks like you guys had a good time.
Yes, it was really nice, and everyone ended up crying, open hearts. It was a beautiful,
That's
and
wonderful.
everything was smooth.
That's
We
good.
were very lucky.
And I heard
Yes,
you made enough money too, which isn't the point, but it was self-funded as
yeah,
well.
yes, yes.
Great. Well, we're going to be seeing a lot more programs in South America. Maybe some of you might want to produce programs in your countries and invite teachers to come as well. Just saying, it's a possibility. But good. We're very proud of you, Sandra and Lucero, and the whole group there, and we're looking forward to more.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, everyone. We're getting close to the end of the class. Close. Today's class is difficult. I kept telling you other ones were difficult, but today's class is just absorb the information. All right. Just let it flow. All right. And there's kind of a cool ending to the class as well. So just relax. Don't worry. Next week's class is all about the easier part, the compassion part and dedication. So, like, I was thinking about this morning, and like, this is the part of the chapter. If you all remember the story of Shanti Deva giving the first teaching on the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. Cameras, please. um, Good morning. So this is the part where he's up there teaching. Everyone is kind of excited, right? I mean, everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're teaching us something really profound." And then during this chapter is when he begins to float up off the teaching throne, right? We know the story. He starts floating up, and kind of, you know, they don't say he went through the ceiling. I like to say went through an open window. I don't know, you know. But so he's floating up, and those who have already developed like superpowers of hearing could still hear the chapter where other people could not hear it. And I was thinking, I was like, I wonder what does this really mean? Like, did he really float up? I don't know. Did he really like disappear? And then they went to go find him and they found him elsewhere. And they're like, oh, Shanti Deva, we're so sorry we made fun of you. We're so sorry that, we thought all you did was think of three things in your life, which is eating, sleeping, and pooping, right? That's all we thought you were doing, right? We are so sorry. And he's like, okay, you can be sorry, but I'm not coming back. I'm going to go do something else. Right. But, I'm thinking, like, what does this really mean? Um, and I think the point of that story, did he float up and, away from the teaching throne and then people couldn't hear him and only the high bodhisattvas could still hear him? You know, or is it a metaphor for only a few people could actually listen to what he was saying because it was so dang difficult, right? You know, I've had experiences where I've been in teachings. This was early on where I would like fall asleep in class, or I remember I was serving a Diamond Way event. I was the gopher. I was running around I made food. I went shopping. I got all the things ready. And then they were like, all right, gopher, go away. Come back later, right? You can go outside. Like, you can go sit out by the fire. It's like, oh, okay, that's nice. I mean, I didn't feel it wasn't like, oh, I was sad it wasn't there, but it was like, okay, now run along, little grasshopper, right? And so I'm sitting outside and by the fire, and like 2 hours went by, and then they all came outside, and they were like, did you hear anything? I'm like, hear what? And I'm like, they're like, you didn't hear us come out. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, literally, I was just like lost consciousness. Okay. And I just fell asleep, and I, didn't hear or see anything. So maybe that's kind of the experience. Like, Maria's laying on the couch. She'll probably fall asleep in class. At least she has a red couch. Um, but who knows, right? It's like, did he really do anything? I mean, that's kind of the point. You know, maybe the people who were there saw something. The people who couldn't hear anything saw something, right? Maybe the point is that we hear the teachings we're ready to hear, and the teachings we're not ready to hear, well, we fall asleep, right? Or we tune out, or the internet goes out, right? My favorite thing is like when a teacher is teaching emptiness, something weird happens in the room, like something goes sideways, like, and then your attention gets distracted elsewhere, right? And you think, oh, that's the next shiny object, right? And basically, what's happening is your mind's like, no, 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 no. I'm not. No, that's not how things are. Like, it puts up a fight. It puts up a resistance. So watch your battles today. Watch your battles all the time around emptiness. And just stick with it. And there's a really kind of cool, as I said, there's a cool ending here in the class. All right. So here we go. So there's many proofs of emptiness, and we go through these all the time. We've spent a lot of time on the proof of one and many. We last week we learned about the proof of diamond, the sliver of diamond. And then there's another proof that we're going to learn today, which is very Nagarjuna. It's very um, it's slippery, right? And so I invite you to learn a bit about it, and then just let it stew inside of you, like you're cooking along. Like you're cooking a soup on the stove, and you have to leave it there for 6 hours so all the flavors of all the vegetables and everything go into the soup, right? So that's kind of what this proof is about. You're like, what are you talking about? You're like, I'm like, emptiness. Why are we having a hard time talking about it? Because emptiness isn't something. All right. And what I mean is that we tend to talk about emptiness as everything has emptiness, right? Everything, like every object, like the phone has some emptiness, right? What is the emptiness of this object, right? Or this cup of water fruit drink, right? There's some emptiness here, right? There's emptiness of the pen, which we talk about. And normally we talk about it in different ways, but we talk about it as in a positive sense in this. And what I mean by positive is that something is there, right? Oh, it's a pen. Oh, it's an angry boss. Oh, it's an emotion, right? And you say, oh, well, is it an emotion? Is it a pen from its own side, right? Is it a pen by itself? No, it's not a pen by itself. If you've been in these classes, you like, it's like you have it memorized, right? You're just like in your mind, you're like, no, when Tim holds up a pen, a dog sees a chew toy. I get it. I understand emptiness. And I'm like, yes, good job, right? And we stick there. We stay there because it's easier, and it's a doorway in. Hi, Jackie. Good morning. It's a doorway into emptiness. If I see it as a pen and a dog sees it validly as a chew toy, then we go, okay, there's something going on here that's not quite right. Like I look at all these various objects that I have around the house, around my world. And if the pen is true, right? If it's true, let's just pretend it is. Then you know, okay, I'm looking at every single thing in the world from that point of view. Meaning, I can point to anything in this house, including me, and say, if the pen is true, if it's true that there is no pen there by itself until I'm there interacting with it, the thing, the object, because dogs, like that's the proof. Because dogs, right? Because dogs see it differently. They look at the same parts, they look at the same colors and the same shapes, and they go, oh, that's a thing for me to put in my mouth and carry around and wag my tail. And then what it forces you is to start looking at everything around you, right? Take a moment, everyone, look around you, right? Do you then look at the pillow or the flowers or the candle or the water jug or the paper towels and you go, pet and chew toy, right? It's a fun exercise, right? Well, who would see a roll of paper towels differently? You know, they're just paper towels waiting to absorb Tim's mess after dinner. That's what a paper towel does, right? Or just is there someone else? Is there another possibility? And we say, oh, well, that's emptiness. There are other possibilities. But as we get moving further and further along, and which we learned last week, is that emptiness, we ask the get to emptiness, we have to go through a negation. That's what we called the gotcha last week. You have to negate something that you thought was there, but it isn't there. Like you have to go through the wrong in order to get to the right. Because you can't get to emptiness any other way. You're like, well, in what? So then this is what I was thinking about this morning because I was trying to figure out how to like. I honestly went to bed last night being like, I have no idea how I'm going to teach this. And that's when I was like, okay, just go sleep. Let the brain work on it overnight. I was also avoiding looking at the news last night. I was not interested. But like, how do we trick ourselves? Or what is the process? Let's not say trick. What's the process to actually get this? I get it, right? I understand emptiness. right? Because every time you think you say, even if you say the words, I understand emptiness, you're already wrong. Sorry. But we use these steps along the way to open up the door into a deeper area. Okay, so we're in some of the deepest areas now. That's the whole point of this introduction. We're in the deep, all right? And if at any moment you're like, I don't understand, okay, good. Just say pen chu toy, and you're doing fine. You're doing better than almost everyone else in the world. All right. And I think oftentimes we get really, I used to get this way. I get really frustrated. I'm like, I don't understand this. But if I understood this, there's this goal, like, and we get really obsessed with the goal. I want to see emptiness directly. I want to see it. I want to do it, right? And we keep talking about it, right? So we get kind of excited about this experience. And then we hear depressing news, right? And depressing news, as in sutra, pay attention to my words. In sutra, an Arya appears maybe once every 500 years. Someone who sees emptiness directly typically appears about every 500 years. All right. So that's actually kind of depressing. Here's 59 of us here listening, being like, I'm going to be the one. And statistically speaking, none of us will be the one right now. Okay. But notice, I want you to notice the words that in sutra, it's every 500 years. Now, use your logic on that statement, and then you can think there's different ways of thinking about it. But it's not as hopeless as it sounds. Okay. It's not hopeless actually at all. And I know many of you are struggling with this. You're struggling with trying to understand this. You're struggling with, how does this apply in my life? Like, how is this, how am I ever going to get there? Right. And then there's like, and then all of our emotions show up, and this is where you work, right? You're like, okay, well, why did I just get upset about that? You know, why did I just beat myself up because I haven't seen emptiness directly yet? I don't know about you. I see lots of smiles. You know, I haven't done it. I haven't achieved the goals yet. I'm not there yet, right? What's wrong with what I'm saying? Where the hell is there? You think there's some goal out there on its own to get to. You think seeing emptiness directly is something that's there by itself. And it's not. Even the experience of the absence of something coming from its own side has emptiness too. You think there's a goal. You think if you walk down the hallway and you go and sit in meditation, that you're going to achieve something. And you're like, what? If you think you're going to sit down in meditation to see emptiness directly, you're already wrong. But that's the only way we can think at this stage. So every time we start talking about emptiness, we always, how do I say it? We always butt up against the limit of our understanding. We always push up against that place of, I can't go any farther. It's not possible to go any farther. Because the words that we're using and the concepts we're using are not there from their own side either. Okay. So today's proof is about how do why is it that things can't grow? Why is it something can't become something else? All right. Yes. You know, so if you're if you're worried about, deep realizations, which thank you, Siri. Did you guys hear Siri? I don't know. She announced something to me. Um, what Siri said to me was, if you would like to see results, right? So no, don't send that text message. No, shut up. Anyway, okay. Anyhow, so yeah, that's what happens, right? I'm having a conversation with nobody, right? They're over there, right? So my AI device, yeah, very weird thing, Yasheng. My AI device said, I'm not going to say her name because then she'll keep talking again. Said, if you want to see the results, and I was like, all right, great, right? How do you see? The question is, how do you even see results? How are results possible from causes? That's the question we have today. And the question is, the proof basically says at the end, how do things that exist or don't exist ever grow? How does something become something else? So I suggest in this section of today's class, getting out your paper and pencil, or get out your note app on your phone, and just type down the things you hear. Okay. And then just look at them. Like, look at them over and over again and be like, what the hell was Tim talking about? Because what's interesting about studying emptiness is that you may have a deep experience in class and get it, and you go outside and then you don't get it. You're like, what the fuck did Tim just say? What did I remember? Like you got it, and then you're like, it just vanishes, right? Does anyone have that experience? Manjayan does. It's just like, it's just, you just walk out and you're like, what the? And then all of a sudden you get pissed off at something, or you get upset. You know, Basically what it is, you want something to start, you want something to stop, and then you forget, which is part of today's argument. All right. But the idea is that you start like putting the limits of understanding, you put those edges, and you start putting them in a pressure cooker, right? And you start cooking. And what happens when you put these ideas into a pressure cooker? Every single wrong idea comes up and starts fighting. Your emotions get high. Start getting upset. You start thinking that, oh, I'm a worse person than I was beforehand. I'm never going to get this. And what happens is people give up at that point. They give up their Dharma practice at this point because it just got difficult. And it got difficult not for a day, not for 2 days, maybe a week, maybe a couple months. And then they give up. But they're in the pressure cooker. There's, like, just keep it going. Like, eventually the food gets cooked, right? You get cooked, right? Your understanding gets cooked. So this is where we're going. We're going to the edges of our understanding. So if you don't understand, great, you're in the right place. Because if you understood, why the hell would you be here? Like, why would you be coming to something if you didn't understand it? If you already understood it, why would you be going to listen to someone explain something you already understood? So it's good that you don't understand. And Kathy said something interesting that she's experienced a lot of fears. Yes, good. It's not easy as a teacher to like celebrate when someone comes to you and said, I'm experiencing a lot of fears right now. Like, kind of have to like give the person a hug, but as you hug them, you're like, you know, I'm supporting you, but good job, right? It's a it's a difficult place to be, right? And it's emotionally difficult. And I'm not making jokes about it either, because it's a deep place to be and it's a deep place to operate from. So that's why you need friends. That's why you need Dharma friends who can be there with you, right? Because all types of weird stuff happens. Emotions that you thought you dealt with, experiences you thought were over, will start appearing. And this is what we don't talk about in DCI very often, right? Just plant the seed, dummy. It's not what they say, but literally that's the answer for every question. Plant the seed. Okay, great. Plant the seed. Wonderful. But I'm having a deep emotional experience right now that I know is coming from a past seed. And I know that I can get through this, but it's a very real experience. And it is, right? It can get intense. But my advice is in the intensity, know that you're being cooked. And what happens to a lot of people in these extended periods, like you can have short periods, but when you have extended periods, I call them spiritual crisis, that a lot of people eventually give up and then everything gets better afterwards. They're like, oh, that was that was like, and then there's this relief, right? And then all your good seeds come rushing out. And you think, well, these practices didn't help me, but look at all these good things. And then you forget about it. Or you can just let it, keep cooking you, right? This is a bad example, right? I mean, think of it like when a lot of us used to eat beef, right? And I'm not thinking it's not a problem if you're not a vegetarian, but a lot of us are vegetarians, right? When you put beef on the grill, right? The outside gets hot, but the inside's still cold, right? The temperature of the meat is lower inside than it is outside. But the temperature outside is the same temperature always, right? When you're cooking and grilling, the temperature outside is always the same. It's it's fucking hot, right? The grill is hot. It's the same temperature outside. You don't put your hand on the grill, right? It's hot. You put the meat on it or whatever you're grilling, your veggie burger, but you have to leave it there for a long time for the temperature to get into the middle, right? And that's why some people they like their meat rare or medium well or completely well done or charred boiled burnt, right? Some people like it black, right? But it takes a long time for it to cook all the way through. Was that a Pittsburghism? Um, so you know, it's uncomfortable to be on the grill, Okay. It's hot. It's uncomfortable to be there. But slowly you're cooking yourself until you're well done, right? You know, until you've burnt out all of those negative seeds or the possibility for those negative seeds to ripen. So our question really becomes here, what is, you know, how is it that things don't grow? A thing that does or does not exist, how could it ever grow in the first place? And so there's 5 different conditions for this. But the main idea, so if you understand this idea, you can apply it to everything else, right? If things existed by themselves that did not exist in dependence, right? And this is the easier way to get at it. If things existed by themselves, meaning on their own, from their own side, with their own nature, these are all synonyms, okay? Like a thesaurus, like we're using different words to say to point towards the same thing, same thing. The thing that we deny, actually. If things existed out there by themselves, on their own, not independence, not independence on anything, then would there ever be a need for a cause? Okay. This is the main question. This is first line of the reading. Okay. Well, second paragraph. Okay. So think about it. If something existed by itself from its own side, without being independent on anything else, which is what you're saying, the thing, the object, the emotion, the phone, the pen, whatever the stoplight you're at, right? Whatever. Okay. If that were true, why would you need a cause? Why would it have to grow in the first place? Right? Why would you need a cause? It's already there. Now your mind wants to argue with me. Yeah, Tim, but it started off, it was little parts and people put it together. Or, oh yeah, that flower yesterday was, I could watch it. It came out of the ground and then it was a sprout and then it was a couple leaves. And then it got taller and then there was a bud and then one day the bud opened and it became a rose and I watched it happen. I watched it grow. Yes, you did. But the way that you were perceiving each of those moments was not a moment where you were perceiving any growth, and you just contradicted yourself because you said, oh, there was a sprout and then there was a longer sprout and then there was a leaf and then there was a bud and then there was a flower, right? Why did you contradict yourself? Here's the second point. Where did the bud go? Well, Tim, it became a flower. I'm looking at a pot of flowers, or the pot of roses, actually. If the bud became a flower, when did it become a flower? You say, oh, well, Tim, it opened up. The sun rose and then it opened up. Oh, that sounds reasonable. But when did the bud become a flower? Find me the moment when the bud opened up and became a flower. And you say, well, eventually you get into the argument and you're like, and you've all done this before, but it's when when it did that moment, when did it stop being a bud and become a flower? How did the flower start growing? And you say, well, and then you try to find that moment when it converted, like it was one thing and it became another thing, right? At one moment it was a bud that was growing and then it stopped and then it became a flower. Okay, when did that happen? When did you find it, Maria? When did you find it? Tell me, when did it change? You can't find it. And that the point is you can't find that moment. And you say, well, there had to have been a moment. Okay, there had to have been a moment. I agree with that. So there was a moment when the bud became a flower. Yes. So did they exist at the same time? Well, yeah, they turned into each other. There was a moment when the bud became the flower. So they touched each other. Yes. Okay. That's impossible. A bud and a flower cannot exist at the same time. If they were touching each other, that means they are each other. Okay. Logically, you have to think through this. You have to think through this. If they were touching each other, if the bud of the flower, the bud, the moment that it became a flower, there had to have been a moment where there was a transition. And if they were touching each other, how about here's my little beads, okay? One bead, this is like what we think, right? Here's the bud, here's the flower, right? There has to be a moment where this boop, became that. This dot becomes this one, you see? And they touch, right? They are touching, right? Dee, 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 dee. You can hear it, right? They touch. Okay. But if they existed at the same time, it makes no freaking sense. Because how do you have a bud and a flower at the same time? Your mind wants to say they do. But if they were touching each other, then they're the same thing. The two things have to exist at the same time if they're touching each other, like these two beads. Deet, 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 right? They touch each other. The two of them are together. So there's, well, is there one thing? It's a flower and a bud flower, a flower bud. In this moment, there must be a transition state. Okay, fine. There's a transition state. Here we go. Now we got three. Here's the bud. Here's the transition state. And here's the flower. Okay. Ready? Here comes the bud. And then it touches the transition state and becomes something else. It becomes the bud flower. I don't know how you would do that in your language. Good luck. Now you still have the same stupid problem. You've created another entity that the bud touches the bud flower. Now you said, but no, Tim, it's between the bud and the flower. Now you have three things touching each other. You say, well, no, the first thing happens, it becomes a bud flower, and then the bud falls away, and then the bud flower touches the flower, and then the flower moves away. And you go, oh, okay, well, actually, I need another object. I need two more objects in between there because the bud flower has a starting and a stopping. Here's the left side, here's the right side, right? Now you've created three objects for your five. Okay. You think something is going on, but something's not going on. Does the bud become a flower? Yes. But not the way you thought it did. Okay. And so something is going on in our minds that is thinking that things are growing by themselves. And then we can use all of these proofs to say, well, actually, there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with the way I'm perceiving that. And then any normal person is going to be like, yeah, Tim, but the the seed became the flower. Yeah, it did. It became a flower. I'm not denying that. I'm denying how it became a flower. Where did the seed go? You put the seed in the ground and now you got a rose bush. Where's the seed? Oh, it became a rose bush. So the rose bush was in the seed. The rose bush is the seed. No, it turned into it. Oh, okay. So one caused the other. Yes. Okay, great. Well, when did it become a rose bush? Well, the cause created the effect. That's nice. But did they touch each other? Well, they had to. Okay, if they touch each other, then they're the same thing. So the rose bush and the seed are the same thing. Then if they're the same thing, then you have two things that are one, and that makes no sense. Okay. And you do this all day long. This is the thing that's going on. All day long, you do this. All day long, you're doing this. And that's why you're not seeing emptiness directly. Okay. Because you think that something became something on its own. Now, did the seed turn into a flower? Of course it did. But the way that it does it is not the way you perceive that it happens. And that's the trick. You have to get yourself behind your thinking. You got to get yourself behind your perceptions. Because that rose bush, that seed is just like the pen. Somebody else could be seeing something else. Okay. So there's a great line here, and I've been saying it in different ways, basically saying that causes cannot make anything grow. So anytime the cause is present, no result ever exists. Okay. And so you have to kind of just sit in meditation and think through all of these things. So what is it that we're trying to deny? Okay. What we're trying to say is something which could never exist can't grow. Okay. And when we say this, we have to be very careful because a lot of people say, well, Tim just told me that nothing exists and nothing can grow. So there's nothing out there. There's no world. Wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. It's not what I'm saying. What we're saying is that you're denying the thing that you thought was there, which is not there, could ever grow. So in that way, the thing doesn't exist. The pen doesn't exist. Well, Tim, what do you mean? There's a freaking pen there. Yes, there's a pen there, but the way it exists is incorrect. The thing that you thought was there is not there, doesn't exist. The thing which you thought was there doesn't exist. So that thing can't grow. Okay. You gotta get your mind into that. Oh, what about my own mind? What about me, Tim? Is there a Tim there who is not there from his own side, and could that Tim ever grow? No. Apply that to yourself, and then you'll see emptiness directly. But it's difficult. So let me go through these very quickly. So make sure I don't mess it up. So we did, so there's the proof that this is, I'm going to be very obvious in this class what homework I'm on. Usually I don't. Usually I make you figure out which homework question we're doing. But I'm going to be obvious about this one because it's better to know where you are, write it down, and just meditate on it. So the question, first question is the proof that refutes that neither a thing which does or does not exist could ever grow. Right? A thing that does or does not exist could ever grow. So there's 4 ways that this happens. First, consider all the things that are results. There's your proof, okay? They don't grow in an ultimate way for 4 reasons. And we just talked about them. Results which exist at the same time of their cause don't exist. Excuse me, do not grow. Let me say it again. Results which exist at the same time of their cause do not grow. Okay. And you can prove that. When does the seed become the sprout? Right? Because you can keep analyzing it and you'll never find the beginning or the end of the sprout or the beginning of the end of the seed. So that's the first reason. So the results that exist at the same time of their cause don't grow. Results and causes, results that don't exist at the time of their cause don't grow either. Because they never touch. All right. The third one, is results that both do and don't exist at the time of their causes don't grow either. You have to think about that one. Just write it down. Results that do and do not exist at the time of their causes don't grow. How can something exist and not exist at the same time? All right. And then the fourth one is results that are not any of those other ones don't grow either. So cause and effect, when they touch each other, they can't grow. When they're separate, they don't grow. When they're touching and not touching, they don't grow. Okay. And then when none of those situations exist, of course, they don't grow in an ultimate way either. Yay, we did question number 1. Moving on. Okay. Just write it down and think about it. So in this discussion, we're actually trying to refute, what we're trying to get at here is how do I say this? There's different points of view of how people believe the world works. So those points of view, typically when you have a worldview, they have different types of questions that get answered. And if you came to the Nagarjuna retreat, it was the very last class. There are 9 basic questions that a worldview, a belief system tries to answer, right? They try to answer, well, where was I before I got here? Where do I go after I've been here? Like, they're asking questions about the darkness before we arrived and the darkness after we leave. We don't seem to have access to those things. So you start asking these types of questions. And so what Shantideva is doing here is he's actually trying to cancel out other belief systems so we can get at an understanding of the way things are. And those belief systems are, in many ways, very helpful for us, right? And someone could argue, well, this is a belief system too. Okay, and then you got to sort it out, right? But there's two main groups that Shantideva is trying to say, hey guys, the way you think the world is doesn't make sense. So the first group, this is question 2. The first group is called the numerist group, which is where most of our minds are most of the time. They believe that the results exist at the time of the causes. And they'll say, and it's not dumb. This is the thing, is like, they're not dumb points of view. And they say, which is very interesting, they say the cause and the results exist at the same time, but the only way you can determine those causes and results is through the act of growing itself. And it's an interesting question because it says we can't know what the causes and results are. We only can analyze them and understand them afterwards. As something grows, we can then observe that the seed created the sprout. Right? You put, someone gives you 10 objects, you don't know what they are. And you're like, I wonder what these do. I'm going to throw them on the ground. Right? The person who discovered farming, the first human being that discovered farming, right? Kind of imagine they find these plants and they're like, oh, look, if I put this thing in water, it kind of expands and it's a delicious food. Let's call it rice, right? And so every day they're harvesting rice from these plants, right? And there's not a lot of it. And then one day, you know, you ask your little kid who's with you, hold on to the bowl of rice, and we're going to go back home because you want to teach kids how to do things. And the kid falls, and the bowl of rice falls all over the ground. Then, of course, you get mad at the kid, and then, I can't believe you did that. And you try to pick up the few pieces of rice you have, and you don't get all of them because a lot of them are covered in dirt now. And then 3 months later, you come back and you see a rice plant. And then you realize, oh, I know how to make more of these. I put some of these that I've picked, I put them in the ground and I can make more of them. Right. So then you're understanding that there's some kind of seed that creates a rice plant. Right. It gets demonstrated. And this is what science is mainly based on. It gets demonstrated that that thing becomes that thing. Put the seed in the ground and it becomes a rice plant. Yay. Cause and effect. Put the seed in the ground, you put some water on it, you put some sunlight on it, you put the right temperature on it. No one comes by and steps on it too much. And then all of a sudden you have a seedling, then you have a sprout, and then you got some leaves, and then you got a plant, and then you got some roses, right? And then you think that's cause and effect. right? So we're denying that point of view. The second point of view are the lower Buddhist schools, the three lower schools, which basically says, okay, now that we've understood that there's something wrong with that point of view, that we're established, this is what philosophers do, right? You've just established that something grew after the fact of its growing. And the philosopher goes, foul ball, right? From soccer, like throws a yellow flag on the field, right? Calls a penalty. It's like, nope. How did it grow? You're establishing growth by the thing you observed changing. And then the Buddhists come in and say, well, yeah, actually, it's not quite like that. But the lower three schools, which we're not going to do today, basically start getting us on the path of understanding how things become things, but they make it safer for your mind. What do you mean by safer, Tim? They make it safer for your mind to start letting go of self-existence, something out there by itself on its own. For example, the pen. Let's tell the pen story. Hold on, let me get a pen. All right. Got your object here. Here we go, right? What is this? It's a pen, right? Then we do the chew toy thing. Okay, doggy, come in. Kitty, where are you? It's a chew toy, right? Listen very carefully. I take this thing and I put it down on the table and I walk out of the room. All the dogs, all the humans, they all leave. And in that moment, nobody's in the room. What is it? What is it? And normally we say nothing yet. For $100, what's the self-existence of this description? Yes, Yasheng. It's the thing. I said there's a thing on the table. This round object, this brown and cylinder shape, is on the table. And I say, it's on the table. Everybody walks out of the room, all dogs. What is it in that moment? I don't know. Oh, then the human walks in and scans the room and goes, it's a pen, right? And then we go through the whole process of saying, well, what creates a pen? It's coming from me. How do you plant a seed for pens? We start talking about how to give pens to others, help people with communication, whatever, right? Then all of the other things flow from there. You're like, well, why do I see it as a pen? Does the pen come this way or does the pen come this way? And everyone goes, oh, Tim, it comes this way, right? There's something about me that makes this a pen, and there's something about a dog that makes it a chew toy. Great. And then we say, well, and then we say, well, there's something in your mind that creates that. How do you get that thing in your mind? Get it? That thing in your mind? The seed? Oh, you need to plant the seed. Oh, I need to plant a seed? Okay, great. So I plant the seed by giving pens, by helping people communicate better. I don't know, whatever a pen does for you, right? And that seed grows and that seed becomes more pens. Give what you want. Like if you want to see certain things in the world, stop doing the things you don't like and start doing the things you do like. Plant the seed. And we're all like, yay, we're planting seeds, which is true. Okay. But you missed it. You missed it. Because it's safer for your mind to think that there's a thing already there on the table, waiting to become something when you come in the room. You add the last part. Your seed opens up and goes pen. And that is what creates a whole pen. And that understanding is enough to have deep experiences about emptiness. But there wasn't a thing on the table. There was never a thing on the table. Right? You want to think that there's a thing there, that then your little seed opens up in your mind and goes, "Oh, that's a pen. Yay." Right? And that's how it works mainly. And that's why we teach it that way, because it's mainly that way. And it's mainly enough to get you into having deep experiences about emptiness. But mainly doesn't mean the whole story. Right? And so when we teach the pen, there is a bit of self-existence in it. It's lower middle way. And it feels safer, but it gets you really close, you see. So each of the Buddhist schools get you closer and closer to get you closer and closer to understanding that the thing that you think you're seeing is not the thing. There was never a thing there. Can't be there. It couldn't have been there. Well, Tim, there's an object on the table. Well, fine. But who's making that object before it becomes a pen? You're seeing a round cylinder. Okay, great. Now I'm seeing brown. Okay, great. But those are parts, and each of those parts have parts, and each of those parts come together as parts to create an object. And once it became object, it became a pen after it became an object, maybe. You want to find something that was there before it became a pen for you. And when you start analyzing it, you realize that there wasn't anything there in the way you thought it was. So the Buddhist schools bring us to a point, they use something that's there from its own side to then rip apart and say, oh, I'm not seeing this the way I thought I was seeing it. The analysis goes on forever. The analysis is not emptiness either. Okay. But those things are, but they're useful tools. That's the thing. It doesn't mean don't do the analysis. It doesn't mean don't think about it. It's a useful tool. So we already did number 3, but I'm going to do it in a slightly different way. Is if you Shantideva gives another reason why causes cannot give rise to a result when they exist at the same time. The questions in the chat, I'm going to let you guys figure out. The answer is not entirely. Okay. So something happens when we look at things is that somehow we believe that they're unchanging. And you can convince yourself that you believe it's changing because the roses on my table over there, I don't know, they've lasted like a week and a half at this point. I'm not sure what's going on. Roses don't usually last that long, but it's kind of weird. Maybe they're lasting this long to teach us something. But they think that you take it as something that's unchanging, even if over time you see it changes. There's something about if things existed by themselves on their own, from their own side, they would be unchanging. And a changing thing cannot affect an unchanging thing, or a changing thing cannot become an unchanging thing. Hope you translators don't have a headache yet. And this is another way to get at emptiness. If something is unchanging, it can never create anything else. It can't create something else. Why? Because it's not doing anything. Something that is unchanging doesn't do anything. And if it doesn't do anything, it can't create anything. So it could never move anything. It could never change the energy of something. It can never create anything. And conversely, a changing thing cannot create an unchanging thing. A changing thing can't do something to then create something unchanging. That doesn't make any sense. Right. So Shantideva is like, look, nor could, so he also says, well, look, not even a million kinds of causes can make an unchanging thing become a changing thing. Nor could anything stay unchanging, nor can it be a mixture of changing and unchanging. And that's what you think. Like you think there's a mixture of changing and unchangingness. Your soul, you don't disagree that you get old, but you feel like there's an unchanging aspect of Constanza or Janet or Tim, right? So all of these things aren't dumb. They're pointing out the way that we think. And the main point is somehow we think the result has a nature of its own, and we take it that way, and then it cancels out all the other causes. So you need to catch your mind in the trap and then hold it there. Because when you cancel what you thought was there, you're left with nothing that's there from its own side. You're not left with no you. And this is again another place that people get to in their practice is they think that they're canceling themselves. And then this primordial, like deep fear arises that I'm going to lose me. Like that's the main thing is you think you're going to lose yourself by seeing emptiness directly. And when you get to that experience, it pops you out of the meditation. It pops you out of it because then you're like, oh God, where am I? And then you start like, okay, I'm okay, right? I'm still here, right? No, but it's a real experience that happens to a lot of people. And if you're doing it well and you're doing it correctly, you probably will have that experience. But somehow you accept that you do change, but there's a part of you that is unchanging. And that's what you need to deny. And when you deny it well enough, then you see emptiness directly. And then this same argument applies for things that things that can't stop. things don't stop from any nature of their own. They don't start from any nature of their own, right? They don't grow from any nature of their own. You find that all of these things follow the same logic. Okay, so how do we navigate all of these things? All right, this is a lot of philosophy. This is a lot of things, right? How do we navigate it? How do we apply it? You may have had an experience where you're like, oh, I kind of understand this. And what I said was, you walk out the door and you forget it because your old understandings come out. And then you have to battle, right? You have to battle with your misunderstandings. You have to battle with them. And so what what these philosophies teach us is how to engage the battle, how to, you know, how to be a warrior while you have things going on. And then how do you not let your emotions take control so much that you can't use them in your practice? So where we end up getting to is that, yes, we want to stop our negative emotions and we want to bring them to an end. But it's not something you can force. You can't just say, stop being an asshole, Tim. Okay. You can't force that. Nor does willpower really do it. So how do we get at it? So one of the ways is you walk out and you have a negative emotion or you have a desire for something. Like I desire breakfast or I desire a different president or whatever it is, right? And basically this is one of the key practices is that, hold on a second here. So when you have a desire for something, there's three objects, like there's three elements. One is the object that you want. I want pizza. I want a partner. I want a different president, whatever your affliction of the day is. All right. The first thing is the object that you want. The second thing is the person who's feeling it, right? I'm the one feeling it, right? There's the object towards which I'm feeling, the feeling that I have of desire, and the acts that I do to get it, right? So it's actually more like, right? The object, the person that's feeling it, and then the acting towards it. Previously, we talked about this in the three elements of giving, right? The giver, the gift, and the act of giving. Okay. But now we're applying it to our desire. And each of those three things have an emptiness of their own. So each one of those are like the pen, the person, the feeling of desire, the object, and then the things you do to get it. Each of those things have an emptiness of their own. So this is how you can use your negative emotions as a path, right? You don't just stop being angry. You just don't stop being upset. All of those things. It doesn't matter. Like those things are already going. But if you can have enough training to then stop yourself and say, oh, well, what's going on here? Well, there's a me who wants that thing. There's a thing out there that I want, and there's the act of getting it. So this is where like the four steps come in, because we say, well, I want to get this. Okay, great. What are the things you have to do to get that? Do you steal it? Well, that's a bad that's kind of a bad seed, right? Do you hurt somebody else to get it? Well, that's kind of a bad seed. All of these things, or you understand how all of those things become the thing that you want it to become. So then you do the four steps. All right, I want a partner. What, it's something similar. I need to go help lonely people. Okay, so I go help lonely people. Right? So I can plant the seeds for companionship. So then you're doing two things. You're breaking the cycle of ignorance by helping somebody else. You're breaking the cycle by giving what it is that you want to someone else first in a similar way. But the giving itself also has an emptiness. There is no gift that doesn't come from your seeds. The act of giving, or the desire to give, or the person who receives the gift, those are all coming from your seeds too. So if you were to use the four steps and just do four steps and don't think about any of these things, will you get the results? Yes, you have to get the result. Okay. But if you put those understandings in it while you're doing it, that even if you're still seeing it incorrectly, but you're intellectualizing it in a way where you go, oh, there's some self-existence going on. I think there's a person out there on their own that I'm going to give them some kind of self-existent gift. And you can start playing with those boundaries of how you see things. Then you're planting incredibly powerful seeds. And in fact, the results that come from that, which don't come from their own side, will come faster, will arrive faster, will arrive more powerfully, including the wisdom that one needs to be able to push themselves over the edge. And so we've heard these examples oftentimes. We've heard that, oh, there's no difference between nirvana and the suffering cycle of life. Like they're the same. There's no difference between reaching nirvana and not reaching nirvana. To me, there seems like a huge difference, honestly. Right? One is where you have negative emotions, which plague you all day long, and the other one you don't. But if you understand the why, they're not different. There is no difference. What is that non-difference? Right. The non-difference is that both of them are empty of any self-nature. That's why they're the same. That's why there's nothing to reach for. There's no eyes, no nose, no mouth, right? What's the difference between a mouth and a not mouth? Right? It's both coming from you. And that's how everything is the same. And that's why everything looks different to different beings. And that's why nirvana, there is no place to go. That's why seeing emptiness directly is not an achievement. It's not something you achieve. Your perception shift. And what shifts, how do we create those shifts? That's what it really is. Because you can have nirvana anywhere. Your paradise could be anywhere. It's not like you go up into the sky and then you're like a little angel, like hanging out, like looking down, right? I found paradise. No, it's right where you are. You see, and so there's nothing to achieve when you see emptiness directly. Or trying to now, does that mean don't try? That's not what I said. Damn it, try hard, study hard, come to classes. Thank you, 63 people, 62 because I'm one of them. Thank yourself for coming to class, 63. Right? You're trying to tear down the limits of your knowledge and and your understanding, and how does it become possible to have knowledge in the first place? You see. And so that's why it would be possible to change things, because if everything has emptiness, which we call natural nirvana, everything has emptiness, then anything would be possible. It is possible for us to reach our own kind of personal nirvana or reach total Buddhahood, because including ourselves have emptiness, including our minds have emptiness. You have emptiness. And then when you start getting deeper into it, that's when all the fun starts. Because what are you trying to change? Are you trying to change the world, or are you trying to change you? Oh, I want a bank account. I don't like who won for president this time, but I want a different president next time. Oh, really? That's nice. Why did, are you trying to change the outer objects, or are you trying to change you? Because if you're a dog, you see a pen, excuse me, you see a chew toy. If you're a human, you see a pen. If you're a tantric deity, you see a bliss stick. So what are you trying to change? Right? And so the questions become much more profound. And if you see pain in the world, right? How do you change that? Does that mean you don't go help people suffering? No, it's not what I said. Does that mean that I should sit in my house all by myself all day long and meditate myself into enlightenment? Maybe, but that's not what I'm saying either. You know, understand how you become you, and then if you're a different you have a different world. And you'll see different people in that world. You'll see different things going on in that world. Whether you like that world or not, that's really your seeds. Why is 50% of America happy right now and 50% of America not happy right now? Oh, I'm sorry, 50.1% are happy and 49.9% are unhappy. Whatever. Right? One person won, one person didn't win. And the cycle of suffering goes on. Rinse and repeat. Okay. In 4 years, we'll do it again. Hopefully. You see, so, you know, what is it that you change and what changes? And that's the important question. What is it what is the thing that changes? And then the way this class ends is, what is the best way to understand these ideas? And I think it's a really beautiful place to end the class. Is, you need someone who can teach you these things, right? You need someone who can explain it to you. And if you understand it just sort of naturally, probably because you had someone explain it to you in a past life, probably. But how do you get to that understanding of emptiness? Is you need someone to teach you. You need to request the blessings from your teacher, who, by the way, is not self-existent. There is no teacher that was there anyway. Right? You're asking somebody for their help who wasn't there to begin with. And that's the way that you can understand it. Yay! Have a great day, everyone. Find your teacher. Good job. Good luck. Maybe you have the seeds for it. Maybe you don't. How do you get the seeds for it? Right? That's a question. How do you get the seeds to have somebody listen to you? Someone who helps you, someone who ultimately helps you. Right? Why? Why do you have that? How do you get the seeds for that? If you can focus on those things, then maybe the question of the 500-year aria has a completely different meaning. The aria that only appears every 500 years. Maybe there's something else going on. So have a great day, everybody. Happy, I don't know, Wednesday, 6th of November. Stick around for some more meditation instruction from Pabonka Rinpoche in a half an hour. And if you're not able to attend that, have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Happy Wednesday. And say goodbye to everybody, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you. Thank you, teacher.
Cảm ơn thầy.
Thank you.
Mulțumesc, la revedere.
Thank you. Pipin.